Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the podcast. Listen, I'm excited for this one. I do a lot of shows. We've had a lot of episodes. You're probably listening right now. You're probably at least at 225 or more. And today we're bringing back a guest on the show, not just like a regular guest, somebody that was okay. No, fam, she was phenomenal. You can go back and look at the YouTube. You can go back and look at all our podcast numbers last time she was on the show. But she also got a book. And we're going to talk about this book. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the one and only Schools Over Now What alumni in the building. Darnyelle, fam, what's going on? How you doing?
Woo, woo, woo. I am so good, Shawn. So excited to be here. Hey, y'all.
Listen, I'm excited for this because I told the audience, listen, if you're watching us right now on YouTube, I'm going to put this book up on the screen, guys. Move to Millions. And if you look at this book, you also see I got my bookmark there. I'm excited about this book. I told Darnyelle, listen, I felt selfish about doing the interview because I want to read every single page. So she breaks it down for us and tells us exactly how we can move to millions. But I got to start off by saying this. What led you to creating and doing this book?
So October the 22nd, 2020, God hit me with 3 words: move to millions. And that was really what started all of this. So we started with a company rebrand and really refocusing the way that we serve clients. And then it just fell in my spirit that I needed to write a book. I needed to tell everyone this framework that we have been leveraging that has created at this point in time, even more so than that are listed in the book, $40 million CEOs. And so I really just wanted to be obedient. Like God said, move to millions. So when God said move, I said move just like that. Move. And now I'm trying to create an environment for other people to move.
Listen, that's what it's about, right? Creating that environment and not being selfish. I wrote down like a bunch of quotes. I've been, blessed enough to get this book before it releases. I wrote down a bunch of quotes and I wrote down a bunch of things that really stood out to me that I want to break down for our audience right now that's listening. One of the things that you mentioned that you're so proudly and boldly talking about enough, like there's not enough entrepreneurs talking about this. You said, and you can love, guys, you want to write this down. In this book, you said, you can love God and make millions. What did you mean by that? And why were you so bold by saying it?
I meant exactly what I said, that you can love God and you can make millions. Why did I do it? Because I feel like lots of us, especially those of us who look like me and you, we struggle with having money and having lots of money. If you were raised in any kind of religious context, then you have misquoted the most misquoted scripture in the Bible, which is, for money is the root of all evil. And the scripture actually says the love of money is the root of all evil, that they who have chased after or coveted after have erred from the faith, and that is what has caused them sorrow. And even the phrase love of money is actually, we have to remember that the Bible was not written in English. What we read, if we read the Bible, is a translation, and some things get lost in translation. And love of money is one of those things, because what that phrase is really saying is extreme greed is the root of all evil. And I agree with that. What I don't agree with is that the love of money is the root of all evil. And most of us have misunderstood this scripture. We've misinterpreted it. And as a result, we are not going to get what it is that God has already ordained for us to experience inside of our life and in our business. Right? When I think about the scripture, John 10:10, I sent my son that I might have life and have it to the full, or some translations saying have it more abundantly. That abundance means that nothing should be lacking. And so many of us have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and duped into believing that having money means that we're farther away from God, and we are more holy if we are broke. And so we cling to bringing broke. And I don't believe that that is what God desires for us. I believe the whole point of creating your own business is to make millions. And so we've got to disrupt and dismantle this belief that is wrong and teach people what the word actually says. So if you go into that same scripture, and that's First Timothy chapter 6, verse 10, that everyone misquotes. Well, First Timothy chapter 6, verse 17 is when Paul actually gives Timothy a recipe for the rich people. So we can be rich. And when we are rich, we should not be arrogant, or some translations say high-minded. We should not put our faith in our money, but continue to put our faith in our God. And we should do good things and give to those who are in need. That's the recipe for having money.
Oh
And so,
man.
because once you understand that, everything begins to change. And so, part of writing this book was to just radically dismantle the belief that if I'm in a business, I should hustle and grind, and I should hustle and grind to make low six figures, which I believe is small business poverty.
Oh man, listen. And guys, you remember last time Dr. Darnyelle was on the show, she talked about how 6 figures wasn't enough. So let's stick to that, right? And these are like, guys, these are bite-sized quotes. This is just a portion of what's in the book, but I want the bigger breakdown. Another thing you mentioned in the book is not seeing yourself the way God sees you will mess with your millions. So let's break that down. What did you mean by that?
So I believe that the way you see money is really about the way that you see yourself.
Mm.
And I also believe that God told us some very distinct things in the Bible. First, in Genesis, he said, let us make man in our own image and likeness. Let us give them dominion over the earth and the power to subdue it. That means that we are bosses. But most of us don't act like bosses because we don't see ourselves as a boss, right? Then let's talk about Jeremiah. Jeremiah 1:5, God says, before you were formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, I approved you, I called you prophet. Listen, there is no greater approval mark, stamp, certification, or measure of credibility than the one God placed on you before your mom and your dad got busy to create you.
Oh man. This.
So if you saw yourself the way God sees you, you would be making, moving, and leaving millions. You wouldn't be struggling. You wouldn't be hustling. You wouldn't be grinding. You wouldn't be pimping yourself out. You wouldn't be chasing all of these different product lines. You wouldn't be undercharging. You wouldn't be doing a lot of things if you saw yourself the way that God sees you. And so again, for me, that's a disruptive statement. I want to say something that really makes a person upset, that offends them so much that they dare themselves to prove me wrong and go and learn how to see themselves the way God sees them. Because I believe that if you did, you will be confident, and that confidence will close more sales than your skills, and you will find yourself making more money than you can give, spend, invest, or save.
Oh man, I like this. And I like this conversation because I feel like that there's a lot of entrepreneurs, and you're probably listening to this right now. You may fall into this category where you're afraid to talk about what God has done for you. You're afraid to talk about, these different moments in your life where God got you out of something, because there's this stigma on entrepreneurs that they're self-made and that they did it themselves. But I also believe there's also times where we talk ourselves out of a lot of things. And one of the things that I like about your book is that you break down these scripture-based principles and you make it relatable, where it makes sense. And I want to give someone right now a relatable moment. You talk about in this book, Moses moment. So let's break it down, right? What is a Moses moment? How does it apply to entrepreneurship?
I love talking about Moses moments. So I think about the story of Moses in the Bible. So in case you don't know the story, I'm going to give you the Darnyelle version of it. Moses was chosen by God to go to Pharaoh to set the people of Israel free. Moses did not want to do it. As soon as he was given the mandate, he immediately started making excuses as to why he shouldn't be the one who would be sent. And I mean, he gave God every excuse in the book. And eventually he was like, okay, well, I will go, but I really don't want to go. And most of us, let me make it about me. I've had my fair share of Moses moments where even when God first said move to millions in 2020, I wanted to give him excuses as to why I couldn't carry that mantle. I didn't have as many excuses as Moses, but I had some because I was in my own fear and how would I be perceived? But then I realized if God called me to it, it's because he's already equipped me to do it. And so it began to change. And so a Moses moment is absolutely one of those moments when you doubt, question, or fear that you can actually do what it is that you're being called to do. And when you're having one of those moments, you have to remember that you are already equipped, you are already approved, and you are already created in the image and likeness of God, which means that not only can you do it, you can crush it. And so temporary departure from my confidence, but got it back quickly and started going to work, actually fulfilling the mandate that has been placed on my life. But I think we all have them. I would be lying, and anyone who tells you that they don't have Moses moments is lying, because I think our first nature when we're given an opportunity to go to the next level is to allow fear, doubt, or confusion make us question if that is really our next level. And I
Oh
think we
man.
get it honest, but we have to learn how to navigate Moses moments so that they don't stop us and make us fall short of our destiny.
Oh man, listen, guys. Right now, you're probably thinking about that Moses moment, right? That job that didn't work out the way it was supposed to, and now you get offered a new job. That promotion that you know you've been working hard for, but you're giving yourself excuses like, I can't do that. That new client where you're like, am I really equipped to be working with this type of person? You are. You're hearing it from Dr. Darnyelle right now. What I like also too, and guys, is that right now, and you talked about this earlier, and I want to go back a little bit. You talked about the whole rebranding phase. There's a lot of entrepreneurs right now that watch this show and listen to it that are trying to rebrand themselves. You know, the things that we did back in 2020, they ain't working anymore. And in this book, it's a wrap. And in this book, you talk about this. You said, when you were going through your rebranding phase and changing up logos, one thing that I personally found interesting, Darnyelle, was the questions you asked yourself. So guys, I want you to write this down. Here's some of the questions, and I'm getting somewhere with this. Here's some of the questions she was asking herself. What do we want to be known for? Who do we want to serve in the next season? What is the transformation we offer better than everyone else in the marketplace? So the reason why you were asking yourself these questions, right? What I liked about it is if you write this down, it's going to lead you to something. The brand story, the brand promise statement, the mission and vision. I mean, it's crazy that you would ask yourself these questions. For someone right now that's listening and they're going through a rebranding phase, knowing that you went through that, right? You went through multiple logos. What would be the advice that you would give them?
Yeah. So I love this question because I am a person who believes that branding is like the last thing that you do. You don't need branding to make money, right? And as evidenced by when you get a copy of the book, you'll see our former logos and you'll see that they are not anything spectacular, right? They were not anything that was amazing. And so I think people try to go through the branding process before it's actually essential. The reason why we grew our business beyond the $1 million mark with that purple lady. We went through the branding process in 2020 because we were being called to serve a higher caliber client. And in order to serve that client, we couldn't half step anymore. We needed to create an image, a topography, a look and feel and experience that would be commensurate with what we were expecting them to invest in themselves through our products and services in order to get the solution that they've been unsuccessful at obtaining on their own. That's why we went through the branding process. And so what I would tell anybody, if you're there now, you shouldn't be attempting to rebrand unless you have already proven concept on who you are, the problem you solve, that you solve better than anyone else, and that people are willing to pay you right now, because a better logo, a different set of fonts and colors is not going to make you any more money. You have to know that core information and be actively working in it before you go through the process of a rebrand. My personal opinion.
I think that's spot on. I think because at the end of the day, you can have the most beautiful whatever. If it don't make sense, if it isn't proven, why is anyone wanting to be a part of it? You know, absolutely. I think what's so cool about you, Darnyelle, what I like so much is the fact that you also have not forgotten about people in your life that have taught you something, and you've taken some of those things that they've taught you and you applied them to business. And I think that goes overlooked for a lot of us. We have, that auntie, that grandma, that granddad or someone, or even a cousin who's given us some game in life, but we kind of struggle with kind of figuring out, okay, how does this apply to like business? In the book, you also talked about your Aunt Ida. And I want to talk about this because first, just tell people about Aunt Ida, and I'm gonna get to the question.
Yeah, so Aunt Ida was a force to be reckoned with. Aunt Ida didn't play. That's the short and the short of it. And so Aunt Ida was my grandmother on my father's side sister. And so my dad used to drop us off over there to hang out with Aunt Ida, and she who taught me how to cook. And Ida could make anything from scratch without a recipe, but she would know what it is she was making, and she would make sure she had everything she needed before she got started. And so in that particular chapter, and the way that the book works, every chapter starts with one of my own personal stories and reflections as it relates to what we're going to be covering in that chapter. And so because of Aunt Ida, I realized the significance of having everything that you need to have and not doing anything until you have everything. And a lot of us, the reason why we experience the challenges that we experience are because we don't have everything we need before we get started.
Whew. I might say that again. That's almost like a battle rap when they haven't rewind the bars. You know, I got to ask you because, you know, she taught you a lesson there. I like to call it principles, right? What are like some business principles that you live by?
Yeah. So I think 3 things pop into my head right away. So number 1, offer service that is unparalleled. Like, you know, get beyond. I remember doing this exercise with clients where we would say, okay, beyond offering good customer service and being prompt, what do you do that makes you different from everyone else who technically does what it is that you do? And the reason why I say that is because you should assume everybody gives customer service, although they don't. And we should assume everybody is going to be on time, although they won't be. Those are givens. That's an ordinary expectation. But how do you get beyond that? How do you start thinking about some of the things that people didn't see coming that are going to make the difference? Because the average consumer, the person you want to serve right now, they have been programmed to notice what is different. And the fastest way to rise above the noise in the marketplace is to be different, to do something no one else is being willing to do. That's why I like contrarian statements. That's why I like to say things that burns people's biscuits, because it makes them stop and pay attention to me. If I were saying the same thing every other business coaching consultant was saying in the marketplace, then I'm going to blend in. But just because I'm willing, bold, courageous enough to say some of the things no one else is willing to say, I'm going to get the attention and the traction that everyone else really wants, but won't get because they're blending in like everyone else.
Oh man, listen, you're giving them gold right now. And I think right now, if you're really listening to this episode, this is really for a lot of people mentally, probably a coaching session for you. Because like right now, if you think about like, how do you like become something or how do you stand out? You know, there's a strategy that they teach even in the PR space about like the majority versus the minority. And being that person who's being bold enough, to Darnyelle's point, is really going to make a big difference. When you sit down and you say, you know what, I'm going to give, you know, these amazing principles. I'm going to give away this formula about how to become $1 million CEO. Was there ever a moment as you were writing this where you're like, you know what, I'm going to include this? Because I feel like a lot of people that write books, they don't include everything. They don't give away everything. Was there a moment for you where you're like, you know what, I have to give this?
Yeah, I mean, before I started writing, so I wanted my book to be different. So part of the reason why the book is 320 pages is because it's straight game. There is not fluff. There is not pomp and circumstance. It is exactly what me and my clients do to have $1 million companies. And I wanted to give it all for 2 reasons. Number 1, because I am abundance. I operate from a space of abundance. There is no lack in me. And so giving the full game doesn't take anything away from me. It actually helps other people raise up. And I wanted to give an environment where I could get other people just from reading my book to become $1 million CEOs.
Oh, man.
That was my whole impetus, that you could literally get a copy of this book for less than $25.
Wow.
And if you are willing to read, follow the chapter action plans, download the resources that we provide for you in that book, and do them consistently, you could cross the $1 million mark.
Oh man, listen, guys,
that was my whole point.
I mean, I think the point definitely was reached, because I'm one of those readers, and I know my audience we're very similar, where it's like, okay, I'll read the book, but only if I don't want to receive what I can see everywhere else. And I'm so happy and proud of you for doing that and giving this to your community. I know people also have paid attention to how you have impacted people even from a conference standpoint. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are trying to put together, you know, something for their community. What have you learned from even, you know, the conferences you have done? What have you learned from building those type of communities that we can take right now and say, you know what, I can maybe do what Darnyelle's doing?
Yeah. So if you're going to get people together, you want to offer them an experience they can't get anywhere else. So everything about the way that we do our events, conferences, as the world would call them, they are an experience, right? I actually could get offended if someone called my event a conference. It isn't a conference. It's a call to your next million.
Woo.
And the way that we set everything that happens up inside of the experience is extremely intentional to create that result for the attendees. The decor, like I'm willing to spend money on things that create an aesthetic for the participants that wills them. It's like a magnetic field forcing them to go to their next level because they're in such an environment that most people don't do. Here's a very simple example. Most events or conferences you go to have no food.
Facts.
They maybe have a water station in the back of the room.
Barely.
We will always and forever have continental breakfasts and afternoon snacks at a minimum.
Mm.
Always we will do that. Why? Because it immediately makes us different. And it's because we care about our attendees. I've been to conferences where there are no breaks. Like you get in where you can fit in, you're an adult, you go to the bathroom when you need to go to the bathroom. No, we take regimented breaks so that the attendees have an opportunity to network with one another. Because you didn't just come to the conference to learn whatever is going to be taught. You actually came to build relationships and find your next strategic partner so
Woo.
that you to the next level together. And it's going to be impossible for that to happen if we're in session all time and someone is talking at us. A third thing that we do that really makes us different is we create an environment for the attendees to connect and synergize together. They are not just talked at from the speakers on the stage for 3 days.
Mm.
Every single thing we do is designed to create an experience that they cannot get anywhere else, so that no matter how many other events they attend, when they leave ours, they are different and they can't wait to come back
Man,
because they
listen.
like the way they feel. Think about that Maya Angelou quote. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And so we endeavor to make them feel like the millionaire that we know is on the inside of them. And we give them permission to boldly and apologetically come out and get their millions because their millions are coming for them.
Man, listen, you know, the experience is so important and it's so refreshing to hear that you think about those things because I know plenty of conferences I done been at that I done spoke at. I'm like, man, is it time? Can I go anywhere? Right? Just thinking about that is so important. What I also value from your experiences that you're creating beyond just those and even this book is that you really have identified who your ideal customer is, right? And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but as I'm, really diving into everything that you offer and listening to you right now, if you're somebody that is stuck at that 6-figure, like you feel like you're like, I'm at a plateau, like I gotta get away from this. I really think you're like the ideal person to take someone from that mark to another mark. How hard was it for you to identify the exact person that you were trying to reach?
Yeah, I don't know if hard is the right mile marker.
Mm.
It constantly evolved, right? I think you start out theorizing who you think is going to be your ideal client. And we did that, right?
Mm.
I've heard people say that it's good to have a person that's just 2 to 3 steps ahead of you. And there were points in time in our business where we were just 2 to 3 steps ahead of our clients, right? And it's constantly evolving. So even though I had a picture in my mind of who I wanted to serve, I didn't know how it was going to be to serve them until I actually served them. And
Mm.
then once I started serving them, I realized that maybe they weren't ready. Or maybe I needed to do different things in order to get them to the milestones that I wanted them to accomplish to experience the outcomes that I wanted to be known for. And so a lot of the times you have the right client, you just don't have the right package to serve them. We live in a marketplace where everybody is looking for the fastest way to make a buck.
Facts.
And we are trying to make that buck without creating an experience, connecting deeply and building a personal connection to the people who are investing in themselves through us. I think that that's all wrong. Listen, I want to continue to scale my company like anybody else, but I'm unwilling to do it at the sacrifice of the level of excellence I can provide and being able to give people what it is that they've invested in themselves through me for. That is very important to me. I have had people who, they did everything we told them to do and they didn't get results, that I gave them more time in my program. Because I know that what we do, our framework is proven. I know it works if you work it. And if you're not getting success, then that means we need more time to get together with you and potentially hold your hand to help you to get the result that we know is possible. And I'm willing to do that because it isn't just about the money for me. Listen, money is never going to be my problem. I'm going to always have money. I am a millionaire. I will always and forever be a millionaire. Now that I got that out of the way, how do I really transform other people's lives? I'm not operating from scarcity or lack. I'm doing everything that I do from a seat of abundance. And from that seat, I desire to truly impact lives. And so that is what governs everything that I do. So, I mean, over the years, we started working with people who were just starting a business. We did that for a period of time. And then we realized that for the depth and the breadth of the knowledge that we have and the business acumen we bring to the table, a brand new entrepreneur is going to be overwhelmed by what we want to teach them and not get results. So we stopped working with brand new entrepreneurs. Then we said, okay, you've got to be at the 6-figure mark. And we started working with people at the 6-figure mark inside of our Move to Millions mastermind. And we realized, you know what? $100,000 business is not enough. Because at $100,000, I mean, no disrespect to anyone, but you can oops your way there. You can make a mistake, do something that you could never repeat again and make 6 figures. It's not a replicatable, duplicatable system. And if you want to scale, see, you grow to 6, you scale to 7. If you want to scale, you have to have something that is replicatable and duplicatable, something that you can multiply. And so we realized that in our mastermind specifically, being at just over $100,000 isn't the right person either. So then we raised the threshold to $250,000. And what we're finding is that 250 to 300,000 range is the perfect client for our Move to Millions mastermind. So we haven't abandoned the client who's just over 6 figures. We created a different program for them because their needs are different than the client that's at 300,000. So that we can really serve and support them where they are and help them to build the foundation that is going to become the backdrop of their $1 million company. And so we wouldn't have been able to do that from day one. So it's always evolving. We're always evaluating. We do a SWOT analysis several times a year on our programs and our clients to make sure that we are actually serving the people we should be serving and they are getting the results that we say we can supply.
Oh man, listen, what I like about this is that it's proven, right? It's proven. You've tested it. You've went through every single level that you possibly can go through. And if you're listening right now, the way you can apply that is, have you proven what you say you are doing? And most importantly, what I like about what Darnyelle's doing that a lot of people aren't is that you're making sure that people are getting the value they deserve for putting what they put in. And a lot of people would not do that, right? So that also shows that framework is a proven framework that you trust and that you're putting out there. So right now, I want to ask you the question. We asked you this question before in the past. I'm curious now that it's been probably right about a year since you've been on the show. What would you tell someone, right, that has either walked across that stage, getting ready to walk across that stage, perhaps got that college degree, no college degree at all, but they're asking themselves the question of the show, school's over, now what? What advice would Dr. Darnyelle give?
Yeah, I love this question. So I have 2 things that just popped into my spirit. The first is that school's over, but now life is just beginning. So you have an unprecedented opportunity to decide who you are going to be in this next season of your life and to walk boldly into it. Who you be is the backdrop for your abundance. So be it in advance, be it before you're ready, be it to become it. And number 2, keep taking action. The consistent person will trump the person who shows up willy-nilly every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Be consistent. Take consistent action towards your goal. I literally have a sign on the top of my door that I have to look out every single day when I'm walking out of my office that says, did you do something today to move you closer to your goal? So be it in advance, be it to become it, and do something every single day that takes you closer to the goal that you set at graduation, because school might be over, but your life is really just beginning.
Oh man, listen, you crushed it as expected. Your life is just beginning. You heard it. What I like also too is that you're somebody that I genuinely know is a good person that is trying to not only shift the culture, but change so many people's lives. So thank you first and foremost for creating this book. If you don't have it already, get it on the show notes. If you're watching us right now on YouTube, you see it, Move to Millions. I'm so proud of you and what you've done, but I'm also selfishly so excited because I know that is game in this book. And I'm excited for what you're doing right now, but also excited for our listeners that this is out there. It's in the show notes. You can click it. You can have your own copy and you can definitely make your move to millions today. And for those of you that have been listening, always remember, but before and foremost, make sure that you are following Dr. Darnyelle and just make sure they have those important information details. Can you share with the audience right now exactly how they can stay in touch with you and how they can find you?
Yeah, on all social media platforms, I am at Darnyelle Jervey Harmon. At Darnyelle Jervey Harmon. I know that's going to be in the show notes, so I won't bother spelling it. To get the book, you can go to movetomillionsbook.com to listen to my podcast, movetomillionspodcast.com to learn about our mastermind, movetomillionsmastermind.com. We're basically movetomillions.com everything is where you can find it.
I like it. I like it. Appreciate you for being on the show, guys. And for those of you that have been listening, I want you to always remember, dream it, believe it, go out